AI is not here to replace your job. It's meant to help you make more informed, data-driven decisions. I mean, we are working in lockstep with many of our utility partners to push the bounds of innovation of what they want to see next from our solution. What's great about the AI data governance teams is it allows a really clear standard for evaluating these solutions and bringing them into the fold more holistically beyond just that pilot program.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicholas Teves, Marketing Associate at Boss Solutions, and I'm here today with Kaitlyn Albertoli, CEO and co-founder of Boss Solutions. Kaitlyn, thank you so much for being here, and I'm really excited for this conversation. Me being part of Boss, I get to see how much thought goes into the way we talk about innovation in the utility industry and the real challenges our customers are facing day to day. So I really was looking forward to sitting with you and hearing your thoughts about all of this from the very beginning. And because I spent so much time thinking about how we tell the story and how quickly this industry is evolving, I'm really excited to hear your perspective as the person who helped shape it from day one. So I love to start from the beginning when you co-founded Boss Solutions in 2017 with Vic. What did you see in the utility space that made you feel there was a real opportunity there?
First off, thanks for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation and to get to share a bit more. Yeah, so in 2017, Vic and I met at a Launchpad course at Stanford University. We ended up leveraging the Stanford Alumni Network to interview 35 investor-owned utilities across the US about the problems and challenges they were facing in their inspection process. And it was really interesting because at that time, drones were just coming onto the scene. Utilities had plans to scale drone programs, or they had started to purchase drones. They were flying them, and they were starting to collect a lot more data. Historically, they were collecting data with helicopters or with field crews walking the lines. And so they were only collecting a small number of images. But with the introduction of drones and autonomous robotics, they were starting to collect a much larger amount of data to the tunes of hundreds of thousands and millions of images per year. And so at that time, utilities were saying that they were planning to scale and stand up these drone programs, but they had these same people who were responsible for analyzing those much larger volumes of data sets. Of course, when you're going from hundreds and thousands of images collected per year to hundreds of thousands and millions of images collected per year, you can imagine that you can very quickly become over inundated with a lot of data. And the time to analyze that data was continuing to lag. In some utilities that we were speaking with, they were saying it was going to take 6 months to a year or maybe even 2 years for them to be able to sift through all of those images. So that was kind of there must be a better way type moment where utilities said, if you can help us build a solution or a platform that would help us make sense of all this data, we would certainly love to try it out. And so that was really the initial genesis of Buzz.
That's so interesting for me, especially because it really shows how early you were in seeing where the market was headed. And when you think about the industry back then compared to where it is right now, what do you feel has changed the most in the way utilities think about innovation and AI?
Good question. I would say more so it's what hasn't changed because so much has changed since we launched Buzz just in the utility space more broadly. You've seen a lot of, unfortunately, natural disasters like wildfires or major storms that have happened. You also see immense amount of stress and strain quickly coming onto the grid with things like electrification and onboarding of renewables. And that's put a lot of very quick stress and strain on our physical grid infrastructure. And what that's led to is utilities have to find a way to adopt new technology and innovation to be able to help keep up with the rapid changes that are happening in this space. But maybe just to provide a couple examples, we've seen things like new innovation teams, which are integrated with the business units that have been stood up at the utility to help pilot new technologies in a controlled and standardized way that then also have metrics-driven success to be able to convert into large-scale engagements. So we have certainly seen those integrated innovation teams have been one way that utilities have been able to move past the piloting phase and actually adopt technology faster. The second thing is we've seen in recent years, utilities have been standing up data governance and AI governance teams, which are meant to help navigate the IT process and the evaluation process for a lot of these new technologies coming in. What's great about the AI data governance teams is it allows a really clear standard for evaluating these solutions and bringing them into the fold more holistically beyond just that pilot program. So those are two ways I'd say that utilities have found, I guess you would say, unlocks for being able to move faster into a larger scale implementation of new technology.
Yeah, and it feels like the conversation around AI has changed so much even the last couple of years. And I remember you said that in 2025 felt like a tipping point for Boss. What shifted during that time, and why did it feel like such a defining moment for the company?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I think there's a couple of things. One, I think a lot of the fear around AI has historically come from the unknowns around AI. There's been hesitancy and fear of AI coming in to take over people's jobs or to replace people's jobs. And, that's a very strong message at Buzz that we are saying AI is not here to replace your job. It's meant to help you make more informed, data-driven decisions so that the human spends less time on manual, redundant process and more time providing the subject matter expertise and taking action on the data sets. But what I think has changed is we've seen now AI being introduced into our daily lives. We see it with the ChatGPTs, with the Claudes. It's a part of our smartphone. It's a part of our daily lives in so many ways. And so I think that's also helped in some ways demystify what is AI? What is its intent? How can I use it? And so we've certainly seen that help. We also see utilities have a more broad technical readiness that's emerged now from things like moving to the cloud. The big cloud migrations have really helped utilities to be able to have more easy access to their data. For example, you see on one side, Esri has been helping utilities move to the utility network, which is all cloud-based, and that allows utilities to get more easy access to their geospatial data. And then you also see on the other side with the work management systems, utilities migrating those platforms to the cloud has allowed kind of this world of where all of our data is moving to the cloud. How can we get more easy access to it? How can we turn this data into more valuable insights that can be used not just today, but then how can they be used over time?
Yeah. And now to shift the conversation a little bit, I know Boss has grown a lot, and so has your role as a leader within an industry that has been very traditionally male-dominated. And I love to ask, how has that shaped your experience as a founder and CEO? And have there been any moments where you felt you had to push against expectations or navigate leadership in a way that felt different from what people may have expected?
It's a really good question because there's actually a couple angles and ways I could approach that question. One is I think we've seen a lot more women starting to enter the space over the last couple of years. When I started Buzz, the first utility conferences I would attend, you would walk into the women's restroom and every stall about would be empty. But now it's been interesting to see. I actually went to my first conference just a little while ago where there was a line for the women's restroom. And if that's not a sign of of progress and change, I think that's really cool to see. And that's a funny way of saying it. But we have seen so many more women entering this space as it's, I think, become more accessible. Technology and innovation is certainly driving more of an openness for new people to enter the space, and not just women. But another angle is I think young people coming into a more traditional space has been really exciting. And so when we started Buzz, Vic and I were certainly some of the younger people entering into the utility space. But it's been really interesting to see the intersection of innovative technologies like AI, machine learning, and some of these new insights also kind of matched with a more traditional industry that may have not had as much innovation entering it. So it's been exciting to see that change as well, both from the women's perspective and also from a younger generation taking interest in our critical infrastructure, which is just so important.
And building on that, I'm very curious about like the broader picture. Do you think women leaders bring something meaningful, different to the way innovation happens in industries like this? And if so, what do you think that difference looks in practice?
Good question. Yes, absolutely. I think varied perspectives is just so important in this space. I think the way that women approach problem solving and challenges is very different from how men approach it. And I think having both of those perspectives around the table is incredibly important. I also think that goes back to the same perspective, what's interesting in Buzz is we have so many incredibly intelligent people on the AI and machine learning side of things, the platform side of things, so many very, very smart engineers. And then we also have so many incredibly smart industry specific folks who have long-term backgrounds in the industry. And so being able to have both of those perspectives come together around the table, I think further drives acceleration of innovation as well.
I love that. And I think that perspective is especially important in a space like this where innovation has to be practical, trusted, long-term. And when you look ahead, what do you want about solutions to become over the long term? And what role do you want the company to play in shaping the future of grid resilience and infrastructure management?
I love that question. Today I feel like we are just scratching the surface of what's possible with AI. I mean, we are working in lockstep with many of our utility partners to push the bounds of innovation of what they want to see next from our solution. We're big believers that with our product, Power AI, that the utilities are the ones that are going to guide that next wave of innovation. And they're the ones that are helping us continue to create new functionality and drive new innovation there as well. What's really interesting is today we're analyzing large volumes of data to help utilities drive more insights from their inspections. And we're doing so today across transmission, distribution, substation, and solar. But I also see there's many other areas of infrastructure where this type of solution could be applicable, and many further insights we can drive beyond just the image analysis piece. We want to help utilities make more informed, data-driven decisions, not just today, but for the years to come. And so I think that's one area that's really exciting for me is how can we continue to partner alongside our customers for those use cases. The second thing is we're also seeing the way that utilities are going about inspections and maintenance is entirely changing today. We're seeing many utilities move from reactive maintenance, which historically has been utilities inspect their infrastructure over a multi-year period of time. They do a portion of their infrastructure every year. They'll inspect it and they'll analyze those data sets, and then they'll conduct maintenance. Or they'll wait till a piece of equipment runs till its time of failure, meaning run time to failure, before maintenance takes place. We're seeing that today, given all the stress and strain on the infrastructure itself, we no longer can operate in that model, which means utilities are moving more towards condition-based maintenance, proactive and prescriptive maintenance as well. And so I'm excited that Buzz can play a huge role and a hand in helping utilities get there in an accelerated way.
Of course. Yeah. And for the utility leaders listening to this, the ones who are actively thinking about future of asset management, resilience, and how to modernize their operations, what would you want them to keep top of mind right now?
Great question. I think it's a balance of getting the quick wins to be able to see success, early stage success in the program, and balancing that with a long-term vision. As I mentioned, we have so many utilities that are thinking about the next wave of what's possible with asset management, meaning they're thinking about moving towards strategic asset management and proactive asset management. In order to make that that big art of the possible vision come to life, we really have to see quick wins of the program along the way so that we can unlock more stakeholder buy-in, more budgets. We can unlock greater integrations of technologies to be able to make this possible. And so we work with a lot of our utility partners on identifying what are the most impactful wins that they can get today to drive momentum of that program for the long term. So that could be something like asset inventorying of insulators to identify all the insulator locations and where you can upgrade those insulators more proactively. It could be identifying along transmission corridors where you have an absence of a conductor and an insulator, and that could be additional capacity that could be created on that structure. That could be identifying the most critical defects on cross arms that would compromise structural integrity of that cross arm and could lead to a greater wildfire risk if that cross arm came down. Those are really specific examples, but they can have huge impacts on reliability, grid resilience, and they can also help utilities get more value faster from that program. So I think it's kind of a blend of identifying, okay, how can we get these wins to get buy-in quickly at the utility? how do we balance that then with the long-term vision we're trying to create as well?
Yep. That was very insightful, Kaitlyn, and thank you so much for being here. This was such a thoughtful conversation, and I really appreciate hearing not just about where Boss is today, but how you thought about the industry, the leadership, and the future from the very beginning. I know there's a lot of people that are going to take away from this, so thank you for taking the time to be with me here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.